The top story on Super 6 this evening is coming from the United States of America. These are shocking visuals, possibly unprecedented when we talk of a country like the USA. What started as raids on allegedly undocumented immigrants by the Trump administration has turned into a full-blown pro-immigration protest. But there is also a negative effect to that. The repercussion in turn is leading to loot, scoot, arson, violence and targeting police personnel. Remember, this was an aggressive immigration enforcement by Trump administration, but resulting in a standoff. Look at that. Latest images. Let's go one by one. Trump administration, though, has doubled down. Trump administration has deployed 700 Marines, 4,000 National Guard troops to the Los Angeles demonstrators' protest and is defiant over the hardline immigration policies. President Trump's directive to the ICE, which is conducting the raids, is to arrest at least 3,000 people per day. It's fueling outrage nationwide. So there may be protests on one side, but as agitation intensifies, look at that. Riot police mounted on horseback continue to push back against demonstrators. Instances of violent clashes between protesters and law enforcement agents have increased. Widespread vandalism and looting is being reported. Tension is high across the USA. It's not just about the state of California anymore. Protesters continue to flood the streets in large numbers, defying restrictions. The USA National Guard, deployed by the administration, is patrolling in full riot gear. Every day, a new wave of arrests are fueling further agitations. Tensions have now escalated in Chicago as demonstrators clashed with police amid the chaos. Several protesters were detained by the cops. Escalating tensions over the immigration policy, a prayer vigil was held in downtown LA. Community leaders, residents gathering to call for peace, unity, solidarity, as much with the immigrant families. Amid the crackdown, the vigil offered a moment of reflection too, certain resilience, but also peace and unity at this juncture when violence is being seen. So initially it appeared that there are possibly protests only in LA, in California. But now these agitations and of violent nature is spreading to other parts of the USA as well. From LA to Atlanta, Georgia, rioters have been seen vandalizing stores, clashing with police. Apple stores have been looted and how. Here's a report about what is happening in the USA and what has led to such a sharp response, even of violence on the ground.
The United States of America on the edge. Protests against raids by Immigration and Customs Enforcement or ICE are spreading. The Los Angeles, the epicenter of protest, saw a curfew clamped in riot-hit areas on Tuesday night.
If you do not live or work in downtown LA, avoid the area. Law enforcement will arrest individuals who break the curfew, and you will be prosecuted. Hundreds of officers from police and sheriff departments from across the region and state are working alongside LAPD through a unified command structure.
National Guard troops deployed by the Donald Trump administration are accompanying ICE agents rounding up alleged illegal immigrants. Over 700 Marines are likely to join the already deployed 5,000 National Guard troops on Wednesday. What started as a simmering protest over immigration has now grown into widespread chaos. From Los Angeles to Chicago, Atlanta and beyond, the unrest is spreading. In Los Angeles, rioters unleashed their fury on an Apple store, smashing glass and looting iPhones. Far from the West Coast, Atlanta faces its own crisis. There, protesters clashed fiercely with police by jumping on patrol vehicles and even throwing explosives at officers. In Seattle, protesters burned and tore down American flags. Police responded by clashing with the rioters. The US President, in a speech at Fort Bragg on Tuesday, defended deployment of federal troops and vowed to liberate Los Angeles from gangs and criminals.
A very simple rule of engagement. If they're dangerous, if they're throwing concrete or bricks, if they're spitting in the face of the police or whoever's in front of them, if they're punching people, if they're doing all of the things that you see done for the last 3 nights, that, I would say, is engagement. We need to keep our city straight. I want to save Los Angeles. And Newsom is totally incompetent. He's not going to do it. Look at the fires he had.
The state of California has moved courts to block deployment of federal troops. California Governor Gavin Newsom, in a televised speech, lashed out at President Trump.
The situation was winding down and was concentrated in just a few square blocks downtown. But that's not what Donald Trump wanted. He again chose escalation. He chose more force. He chose theatrics over public safety.
As protests rage and political tensions flare up, the American people are left wondering, what comes next? With Pranay Upadhyay, Bureau Report, India Today.
So remember at this juncture, for Donald Trump, as you can see with the reason that these protests that have broken out, what is the response and the action that he's taking? He's clearly at this juncture announced ban, partial or full, on certain countries. And he says this is because he doesn't want foreign terrorists. We're talking about at least 12 countries here, partial ban for 7. And I want to take you through one by one. Look closely on your screens. Haiti, for example, Chad, Libya, Iran, which has been a known arch rival of the United States of America, Afghanistan, especially since the takeover of the Taliban, then Myanmar, which is a conflict region right now, so is Yemen, Somalia, again, Eritrea, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Sudan. This is where he's not permitting people, and we're talking in millions right now with regard to the population, that they wouldn't be allowed into the country. If they are undocumented, they need to be deported. But also there's been a partial ban on Venezuela, Burundi, Cuba, Togo, Sierra Leone, Laos and Turkmenistan. So this is the action that for some reason Trump administration believes that these countries are problematic in nature and there will have to be restriction in movement as well. We'll be tracking how this unfolds for now, whether these are pro-immigration protests or a reason to loot and scoot or a big trouble coming in for Trump administration, because he's hell-bent, he's very clear, he's defined, he wants to go ahead with these raids, while there are protesters on the ground who say this is against humanity. We have some big news coming in. Let's take a look at that. Big news coming in from the US President Donald Trump. He's taken to social media site, and I want to quote what the US President is saying. If our troops did not go into Los Angeles, which means the deployment of the heavy nature that he's done, including of the commandos and the Marines, he says that LA would be burning to the ground right now, just like so much of their housing burned to the ground. Remember, of course, that was a natural disaster a few months ago that had happened in LA. He's saying similar situation would have happened because of these miscreants and protesters had I not deployed additional security. The great people of LA are very lucky that I made the decision to go in and help. Remember that unprecedented with regard to the American administration, that the reason to deploy Marines and commandos of this number were deployed in a place like Los Angeles. This is a prestigious, high-profile location, a tourist destination, luxury residences here. Right now is witnessing these massive protests and agitations as well. So we'll be tracking all that and more. For now, it appears that Donald Trump has taken a decision in how. I'm now joined live from Florida. Rohit Sharma is joining me from the USA. Rohit, good evening. Tell me about what's unfolding in California. I hear that this is spreading to other states as well. Why the standoff? Why hasn't there been possibly a consensus on this?
Well, look, I think President Trump has been clear from day one. He wanted to deport all criminals. And I think the manner in which this has occurred, especially past month or so, The fact that people are not happy about these raids that are happening outside of some of the, mom and pop shops, Home Depot and all that. I think that's what started the protest. Now, I think, as far as, political points, both the parties are trying to score, nobody's debating the fact that they should be deported if they're criminal. I think the manner has been debated, and that's what spurred these protests. And President Trump, he's learned his lesson from 2020. Remember, during Black Lives Matter, the movement, spiraled out of control really quickly. And I think he regretted not, using his powers during that time. So he's trying to preempt these protests by using some of the powers that, again, constitutionally he does have, but he's not invoked those acts yet. But he's trying to preempt them to be able to do so and putting pressure on the California authorities to take some action, which is what we saw yesterday when the mayor of California put out a curfew notice. So I think all in all, I think there is definitely some concern in the immigrant community in the US in the manner how some of these things have occurred. But the fact that, there are riots, there are violent, there's looting, I think that's something that should bother the Democrats as well as the Republicans. And as far as these riots spreading all across the US, I think this is, again, a repeat, as I said, of what we saw during the BLM movement. But then I think President Trump is better prepared to quell these protests, which he thinks are necessary at this point in time.
All right, Rohit, keep tracking the latest on that, because clearly this is looking disturbing to say the least. For now, remember, we don't have really Indian immigrants on target, because this is focused on undocumented, those likely with criminal elements is what the charge is. But we'll be tracking how this really goes ahead in the days to come. Rohit, thank you very much for now. What does this mean? Why is the Trump administration going after what it says illegal immigrants in the USA? For example, now the reason that the visuals that you see, the focus is coming on the Latino community, the Mexican community. The Latinos account for about 72% of even illegal immigrants. And that's also with the border situation that comes in here. We are quoting from the data that has come in from the news reports and from official websites as well with regard to the Trump administration. United States of America's total immigrant force is over 1 crore. It's huge. It's highly dependent on the immigrant force. But with Latin America coming in, joining with 72%, Mexico, again huge, again a border situation here, about 40 lakh. Central America, Caribbean, South America, these are some of the nations, as you can see on your screens. That the map, the details that you see are very important, because this tells you more about what precisely are the numbers that forms an immigrant chunk for the USA. Asia including, of course, there are about 17 lakh people. This is where the future of Indian community will also come in. Europe and Canada, about 7.8 lakh. Middle East also accounts as much. Africa as well. This is now, I want to just add here, the data is about 2022, but this is reflective of the kind of situation that you see unfolding right now. When we talk about the refugee status, because remember, while there are immigrants, legal immigrants, of course, then there are illegal immigrants, then the asylum seekers and those who have been provided asylum. And for the USA, this has been a huge number as well. Which countries have the refugee status with which they have entered into the USA? Look at that. Congo, Myanmar, conflict regions have sent a large number to the USA in the past few years. Over the years, we are showing you the graph of what precisely does this look like. Africa, especially, is about 34,000 from what we can see. There is about South Asia that we are looking at, about 30,000 again. Latin America and Caribbean, about 25,000. Asia, 7,000. Remember, different countries if there is a part of conflict here. So different countries that have contributed to the refugee status, individuals and families as well. So there are, of course, different layers to this that the Trump administration will have to look at, because there have been controversies. If all of these raids have been fair, if they are separating families, if they are targeting people who are documented as well, is there a fair decision that Trump administration has taken, knowing fairly well about the situation on the ground, or is this an attempt against humanity? But look at that. The visuals on your screen show all is not well right now on the American soil. However, here's what has happened. If there's one fight that the United States of America has been fighting on, is about terror. And now, a Pakistani national, a young man on your screens, is being extradited from Canada to the USA. What is the charge against him? of allegedly plotting terror strike on American soil. The plot was foiled, but America wants him to be tried. The Pakistani national, 20-year-old man Shahzeb Khan, was allegedly plotting a mass shooting, and he wanted to target a Jewish center in Brooklyn and in support of ISIS. FBI Chief Kash Patel has confirmed the news, and he has said this was a last-year attack plot by the Pakistani national. It was timed with 1 year of the Hamas terror strike in Israel. So remember October 7th, 2023, when Hamas entered into Israeli territory and massacred people, including women, children, and men. This man wanted to repeat it in the USA. And according to sources, according to information coming in, target as many Jews as he possibly could. He has no connect, clearly, to the Israel-Gaza conflict. Shahzeb Khan is all of 20 years old. He was basically arrested near the US-Canada border last year, and then has now arrived in New York earlier this week. So it was at the border when clearly he was targeted and he was arrested, and then is now being extradited. According to the Department of Justice, Khan aimed to carry out a deadly assault using assault rifles. How did his plan blow up? He revealed to undercover operatives that he wanted to kill as many Jewish civilians as possible. Random Jewish civilians who may have nothing to do with Israel-Gaza war. Shahzeb's plan was foiled because he revealed it to conspirators who were undercover law enforcement officers. The revelation comes but also as a wake-up call to President Trump. He reportedly has been, remember, involved in a family business deal with Pakistan crypto agencies. And that blurs the line. How do you fight terror when your personal interests or business interests are also coming in here? But a reminder, India for far too long had been sending evidence and dossier, and America knows too well that Pakistan has been hosting, sheltering terror elements. Perhaps it's a reminder to the USA to be able to have and be a part of this fight against terror. What about this alleged crypto deal with Pakistan that even made Donald Trump appreciate Pakistan's strong leadership that caught the attention of Indian leaders as well?
The leader of India, who's a great guy, was here a few weeks ago. We had some great talks. We're doing a trade deal. And Pakistan, likewise, they have very strong leadership. Some people won't like when I say that, but, you know, it is what it is. And they stopped that war. Now, am I going to get credit? I'll never get credit for anything.
So what was this Pakistan terror plot? Let me tell you about this man, Shahzeb Khan, a Pakistani national. But he was residing in Canada and was trying to enter into the USA to carry out this attack. Look at this man on your screen, all of 20 years of age. Nationality Pakistan, residence Canada, temporary for now. Alleged affiliation to the ISIS is the charge against him. Now, what was the terror plot he wanted to be a part of? In the New York City, they were plotting, aiming to have an ISIS-inspired attack at NYC's Jewish Center. That there was going to be a mass shooting on 7th October 2024. So this was the last year attack that was being planned. It was foiled. They wanted to mark 1-year anniversary of Hamas attack. Inspired by Hamas, do the same on American soil. That they had access to automatic weapons. They wanted to kill the members of the Jewish community. Attempted to enter into the USA to carry out the attack. He was then caught at the border. So this was in many ways a joint op by the Canadian authorities and the American authorities as well. This man has been caught, but is he just a puppet like we've seen in 26/11 Mumbai terror attack? Ajmal Kasab was caught alive. But what we realized from Tahavur Rana or David Coleman Headley, that there was of course a bigger nexus. These puppets are deployed for a reason. They are brainwashed, young men who are made to believe they are part of a global jihad, and therefore they want to target the USA as well and kill even innocent civilians. That has happened in Mumbai, like we have seen. We have big news coming in meanwhile on what Donald Trump, the USA president, has said. Let's go across to that. Donald Trump has said, and I quote him here, "Our deal with China is done, subject to final approval with President Xi Jinping and me. Full magnets. Any necessary rare earths will be supplied upfront by China. Likewise, we will provide to China what was agreed to, including Chinese students using our colleges and universities." Huge, huge announcement coming in from Donald Trump. We are getting a total of 55% tariff, says Donald Trump. China is getting 10%. The relationship is excellent. Thank you for your attention to this matter. What's happening? China and America clearly appear to be involved in a certain bonhomie right now. There is a relationship, an equation developing. Just barely a few months ago, remember, Donald Trump and the administration wanted to take a hard view on China, on the tariff war. China didn't want to back down. The USA did not want to back down. And remember, every night there used to be a doubling of the tariffs. A reciprocal tariff that China would announce, USA would announce, and it would go back and forth. But now it appears there has been a certain understanding, a deal has been reached with China and the USA. Subject to final approval with President Xi Jinping and me, he says, and then adds that full magnets, any necessary rare earths, will be supplied upfront by China. And this, remember, is with regard to investments also being done. All right, big news coming in from Shillong. Remember the 5 accused who were produced in court in the Raja Raghuvanshi murder case. All the 5 accused have been sent to 8-day police custody. Now it begins. 4 accused, the men, and then accused number 1 remains Sonam Raghuvanshi. This is a big news coming in. Remember, just about a short while ago, they were produced in the court. This is part of the protocol. Accused images are on your screen. Now remember, the other 3 were the hired killers, as the investigators have said. Then there is Raj Kushwaha, who allegedly plotted the murder. He was the one who got the hired killers and who told them to go and kill Raja Raghuvanshi. And Sonam, of course, the bride who wanted that murder to happen. We have more news coming in on Raja Raghuvanshi case. Let's take a look at that. More revelation continue to come in from our police sources as our reporters are on the ground. What are the senior cops saying? Shillong's DIG has made the revelation for the first time on Aaj Tak India Today. We are told that Shillong's DIG, Davis N.R. Mark, has said, after the murder, Sonam, along with 3 contract killers, picked up Raja's dead body and threw it in the ditch. Disturbing, horrifying details are surfacing. So it wasn't that the murder happened, possibly the murder happened under her watch. The contract killers arrived with 2 scooters. 2 killers took 1 scooter and left. Sonam and another hired killer were on another 2-wheeler, and then they went ahead. We are told, because remember the scooter, one of the scooters, 2-wheelers, was found about 10 kilometers from the crime scene. That raised a suspicion of the cops. Meghalaya police soon realized when they found evidence on the ground something is amiss. According to investigators, Sonam and Raj have confessed to the crime, but they are blaming each other regarding who orchestrated it, who is the mastermind. That there were about 4 mobile phones. Some mobile phones have been found, some yet to be recovered. If all these details that we are bringing to you, it raises only one pertinent question. What was the fault of Raja Raghuvanshi, a young man who was looking forward to a happy married life? And then Raj Kushwaha, the alleged plotter, Sonam, the bride who got into this marital alliance, was she the plotter? Wanted this young man dead and then left with the 3 killers like nothing has happened. But big news coming in. It appears Sonam and Raj Kushwaha have accepted and confessed to the crime. However, they're trying to pin blame on each other about who is the real mastermind, who is trying to play the victim here. Remember, 1 man dead, 3 families destroyed. Focus on these 2 individuals, because other 3 are hired killers. They did it for money. They possibly did not have much idea about Raja Raghuvanshi. But for now, visuals on your screen as these accused were taken to the Meghalaya court, and now 8-day police custody. It now begins about the kind of interrogation, a lot of questions unanswered that only Sonam can talk about. Man versus wild. Tigers go on a killing spree. Ranthambore to Pilibhit. Eight deaths in 3 months. What's causing tiger attacks? Big focus only on India Today. Viewers, on this special telecast, I want to bring to you an important story. This isn't about a political showdown. This is about man-animal conflict. We were, remember, consistently campaigning for Save the Tiger. They'd become endangered species, these precious tigers. And today, we've been proud to mention that the tigers' numbers have increased in different sanctuaries and tiger reserves. However, there is a concern. In the past 3 months itself, there have been deaths reported, or shall I say tiger attacks, on human beings. From Uttar Pradesh to Rajasthan, the focus this time is the popular Ranthambore National Park, Ranthambore Tiger Reserve. What happened there? India Today is on the ground to help you understand 3 deaths, a watchman, a ranger and a child mauled by the tigers. How and why? Here are some details.
Tiger terror on the rise. From Uttar Pradesh to Rajasthan, tiger attacks are triggering panic, protests and calls for urgent action. 60-year-old Radhesham Mali was killed in a tiger attack near the famous Trinetra Ganesh temple, sparking protests in Ranthambore. This was the 3rd such death in Ranthambore in as many months.
वन विभाग ने यहाँ से टाइगर जो गणेश मंदिर के आसपास जोगी महल के आसपास जो टाइगर है उसको बाहर शिफ्ट करने का प्रोग्राम कमेटी का रिपोर्ट है जिस पर दिल्ली से भी अप्रूवल मिला है। अभी तुरंत ही हम इनको अन्यत्र जगह पे यहाँ पर एनक्लोजर्स में शिफ्ट करने का।
Villagers are demanding compensation and government job for the victims' kin. They have also sought a written assurance, threatening to continue the protests till their demands are met.
डिमांड तो यही है कि जो वन विभाग के अधिकारी कर्मचारी लोगों को परेशान करते हैं और आए दिन टाइगर बस्तियों में घुसने लग गए, अगर उनको ये नियंत्रण नहीं कर सके तो इनका वन विभाग का अधिकारी यहाँ रहना ठीक नहीं है। जिनकी शिकायत है उनके खिलाफ जांच और ट्रांसफर कराएंगे और ढंग के अधिकारी यहाँ पर लगाएंगे।
Experts are warning that the attacks will only rise as the number of tigers are increasing and territorial clashes are pushing big cats closer to human habitats.
जो मादा बाघ है वो अपना क्षेत्र आसपास ही बनाते हैं अक्सर, परंतु मादा बाघ के लिए भी कुछ क्षेत्र में कमी हो सकती है। उनको आप जो है दूसरे टाइगर रिजर्व में स्थापित कर सकते हैं, परंतु साथ ही साथ जो नर बाघ है वो अपना क्षेत्र दूर दूर तक जाकर के बनाते हैं। ये स्थिति जो है वो 3-4 महीने रहेगी। 3-4 महीने इसलिए रहेगी कि बाघ सावक जो है वो अभी पूरी तरह से माँ से पृथक नहीं हुए, अलग नहीं हुआ है।
ये जिन भी बाघों ने हमले किए हैं ये सब एडल्ट कब्स हैं जो क्यूरियोसिटी, सेल्फ डिफेंस और सिक्योरिटी के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से ये हमला करते हैं। तो मेरा मानना ये है कि ये जो भी नए बाघ ने इनके ऊपर हमला किया है, ये किसी एक बाघ को हम दोष नहीं दे सकते।
Meanwhile, in Pilibhit Tiger Reserve, 5 deaths have been reported in just 1 month. In the latest attack, a 36-year-old farmer was mauled to death while irrigating his fields.
सुबह को खेत में पानी देखने गया था, वहीं कहीं भाग बैठा था और ये तो खेत में पानी देख कर रोड बैठ गया। टार्च वगैरह इसके हाथ में थी, फोड़ा था, उसने पीछे से निवाला बना लिया।
Locals accuse forest officials of inaction and they are demanding fencing.
तार फेंसिंग तो है नहीं, कुछ जगह लगाई गई है। जब तार फेंसिंग नहीं है तो खेतों में आने के लिए बाघ मजबूर होता है। तो जब खेतों में आता है तो लोग जो जितने भी किसान लोग हैं, कई लोगों को यहाँ पहले भी खा चुका है और दहशत का माहौल बना हुआ है और यहाँ हम लोग पानी भी नहीं लगा सकते, खेती भी नहीं कर सकते। बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है यहाँ।
As the man versus wild debate rages, the question remains how to preserve thriving wildlife in shrinking, shared spaces without endangering human lives or animal welfare. Bureau Report, India Today.
So this is very important, remember, because you have to care as much about the human beings, but of course, as much for the tigers too. Let's try and understand. Now, the focus here is on 2 tigers, from what I understand, mother arrowhead and the daughter, who's a sub-adult tiger, Kankati. But this is more of a tracking, a speculation movement right now. Could there be other tigers involved as well? But there is a certain focus for the wildlife experts on the ground. Let's try and understand what is the reason that in a place like Ranthambore, tiger attacks are increasing. And I don't want to sound alarmist or panic because I understand it's a popular reserve, but we have to understand what's going wrong. Joining me, Dr. Anish Andheria. He heads the Wildlife Conservation Trust and closely tracks specifically the kind of changes that we are witnessing in the human habitat, the animal habitat confrontation. Dr. Anish, welcome to the telecast. What is your assessment? What do you think has happened in the past 3 months from Ranthambore, Pilibhit and other areas as well that we see tiger attacks are spiking?
See, multiple reasons, but the main reason is that there are 3 million people living inside 58 tiger reserves of India. Please understand this. 3 million people living inside India's 58 tiger reserves.
Wow.
100 million people dependent for their subsistence for up to 40% on tiger reserves. So you can imagine the pressure that we have on these last remaining green areas. Tigers are just a symbol for conservation and the health of the forest. So it's a carnivore, it is large ranging, it is at the top of the food chain, and that is why it is important for conservation. By counting tiger numbers, by understanding what is happening to the population, you can tell what the forest is doing. Eventually, why is the forest required? It's required for human betterment. We have to understand that the rivers are all originating in the peninsular India, either from the forest or the forests are feeding them. So that is a background you have to keep in mind. So these so-called interactions, I would call them in negative interactions, are nothing new. But you can imagine that already the forests in India have shrunk. And we have only 5% of India under protected area network. And this 5% of India is producing so much water for the country. And that area, of that, some area is allocated for tiger reserves. So there is huge amount of pressure. But why is this happening? The two cases currently, because your news is talking about Pilibhit and Ranthambore, you have to understand that there are two different situations there. In Pilibhit, again, very high density. Uttar Pradesh, in once upon a time, had a lot of forests. Today, the forest is reduced to a sliver only on the northern tip of the state. Uttar Pradesh is one of the largest states, yet there is no forest left in 95% of Uttar Pradesh, or even more. So the Pilibhit area is abutting Nepal, Dudhwa, Katarna Ghat, Kishanpur. These are all forests at the tip of Uttar Pradesh, connecting Nepal. There, the human density is high, and there is huge amount of sugarcane ingression, which means that the corridors that connected these forests are now completely overridden by sugarcane. And sugarcane is an ideal crop for a carnivore to hide in because there will be water, there is shade, there is place for them to litter, they can give birth, and they are not seen, they can come out, kill a dog or a cow and go back in. Once in a while, it so happens that a human being comes in contact with a tiger and unfortunate incidents like this happen. So that is the Pilibhit issue. In Ranthambore, again, it is not because of overpopulation of tigers. It is largely the problem is happening because there is a tigress called Arrowhead. Last year, when she was extremely unwell, she was virtually fed. And that's how she survived. Now she's hunting crocodiles. I was in Ranthambore last week and she's making her own kills. However, during the last 1 year when she was raising cubs, those cubs for the initial phase of life, which is their learning phase, all that they know, they learn from their mother. And the first 20 months is when the mother is everything, father, Guruji, mother, everything. And so at that initial raw age, they were fed on cattle.
Food bait.
Food bait. Now, as a result, now that they are grown and they are slowly separating from Arrowhead, they can go without food because they have not really hunted so many live large mammals. Normally tigers do. There is another tigress called Riddhi in the same area, and she is an excellent hunter, and her cubs are
So Dr. Anish, what does one do? A quick question there. How do you relocate these tigers? Because there is this natural wariness to humans that's going. How do you retain that? Unlike elephants, this is a complicated relationship.
And we have to be uncompromising. This is an unfortunate situation where the department tried to protect tigress and her cubs, and now the cubs are It has boomeranged on them. So the most important thing is to a Kankatti that you mentioned has already been trapped and she has been removed. Now this attack that happened on the fort where a Chowkidar Radheshyam was killed, they believe that it is done by the sister of Kankatti, which is again daughter of Arrowhead. And I don't know what is happening there right now, but I'm sure that because this has already happened in the past, I'm sure they will tranquilize her and take her away. So they will have to be removed. Once you know what animal has done this, and because there is a history to this, they should not wait. They should just capture that animal and remove it, and the problem will get sorted for the time being.
All right, I appreciate you joining us, Dr. Anish, for your perspective. And let's just hope wildlife experts from the management, administration, government, all of them will get together as much with the public support to ensure that there can be a coexistence, but to ensure neither the tiger nor the human would be harmed in any way. So we'll be tracking more of that, an important story that concerns our nation, and that's why we've decided to bring it to you. The Axiom 4 mission has been postponed once again. The mission to the International Space Station carrying the Indian astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla with 3 others has been delayed because there appears to have been a leak in the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. Let's try and understand this more. Joining me from on the ground is Akshita Nandgopal. Akshita, we were supposed to have been covering at this juncture the launch. What do you pick up on what happened and when is the next date expected?
No one more disappointed than I am, honestly. But you've got to understand, Pooja, that this is a manned mission. So there's zero room for error. Just a couple of quick updates. There's been no communication really from SpaceX on when the next scheduled date of launch is. But what we're hearing is that the liquid oxygen leak was in the Falcon 9 rocket. And there was talk that it's going to be moved out of the launch pad for repairs. That hasn't happened because if it was moved, that essentially meant that you're not going to be seeing the launch anytime soon. It's not been moved out of the launch pad. So at this point, there is some speculation. We've been speaking to experts. They've been saying, look, there's a possibility of this still happening in the next 2 to 3 days. But at this point, you can't really hazard a guess. We're hoping that there will be some confirmation on that in the next 12 hours or so. There are essentially 2 windows here for the launch to happen. One is next week. So if SpaceX manages to get all repairs done, plug those leaks of liquid oxygen, we could see the launch happening next week. If that doesn't happen, it's going to be pushed all the way to the 2nd week of July. And that's because, look at it this way, you almost have bookings for the International Space Station. The space station is not available for that particular period, which is why either it's next week or the 2nd week of July. There's no tearing hurry here. That's very clear. SpaceX is the final authority on when the launch will happen. And because it's a manned mission, they're taking no chances whatsoever, which is how it should be. Right now, Group Captain Shukla and the 3 other astronauts, they remain in quarantine. If this is delayed more than next week, Pooja, if we're talking about the 2nd week of July or beyond that, we're going to be seeing them coming out of quarantine and then going back in closer to the launch date. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But like I said, onus and decision is completely with SpaceX.
And we would rather have a safe and secure mission than a hurried mission. I understand the excitement all around us, especially in Lucknow and, of course, where you are also standing. Akshita, thank you for bringing us all that's been happening there on the ground. I'll come back to you in a short while as well. So that's what we have on the Super 6 this evening.